Because he and God were right there, and they knew exactly what was going on. And in fact, in the Garden of Gethsemane, in Matthew 26:39, at the time whenever Jesus was in his most just intense, you got to visualize this. Here is Jesus only hours before his crucifixion is occurring, and he's actually letting, for a minute there, he's letting his pace fall behind God's. And he says in a pain prayer, can you take this cup of death from me? Can you take this pain from me? Let it pass. And the scripture even tells us that he cried tears of blood. He was so just overcome by what was happening. But despite all of that, he humbled himself because he ended that exact phrase with this: not my will, but your will be done. Can you imagine how amazing it would be if our relationship with God was so intimate, so perfect, that we could stare death in the face, knowing that in a few moments, really, we would be in the most painful, the most suffering situation we've ever been in, but say, your will, not mine. We can get that. We can have that faith walk. We can trust God enough by walking with Him and saying, I'm going to humble myself. I'm going to put your will above mine. I'm going to do what you tell me to do. And you will be able to get that intimate knowledge, because the more we walk with God, the more we grow with Him, the more we're going to understand Him intimately and understand who He is. And that's one of the things that Micah told the people. If you would just do this, your situation would be better. You could stop this impeding doom that was coming across you if you just did that. So how hard is it to follow God? Well, if you look at the scriptures, especially in what we've looked at, it's not as hard as we might think. Not as hard as we make it sometimes. And back in Micah's day, they had it a lot worse than we did. And yet they had no worries, or they had no mold, they had no designs, none of that, but we do. Christ is the perfect example on how to follow God, and it's not that hard to follow Him if we try. We have all of the notes right here in front of us about how we are to learn to be more like Him. So I encourage everyone here to strive always to act in the heart of Christ in everything you do. Even if it seems too hard, be willing to submit yourself to God's will. Just if your heart seems like it's too hard for you to act justly and to do the right thing, well, maybe that's something you need to take up with God and sit down with Him and say, God, my heart's broken. I'm not seeing things as justly as I'm supposed to. I'm not thinking things as clearly as I should. Fix it. I guarantee you He'll listen. And that'll be one of those steps where you're walking with Him. One of those steps you'll be growing with Him. Let your life be a perfect example of that mercy and that kindness that we see. Because God showed this kindness to His children. And I pray with everything I have that your heart becomes a bottomless pit of love and compassion for other people. Scripture tells us that's what He expects of us. If we are willing to do things in a just way, to have that kindness and serve happily and in kindness, then we're already 2/3 of the way there. And if your heart maybe isn't able to have that love and compassion, and there's something going on there, then why are you not enjoying it? That's a question we should all ask ourselves. If your heart isn't able to give that compassion, it's not able to feel that love, what's wrong? What's wrong with this picture? And maybe you need to slow down a little bit sometimes. Maybe you're walking too fast, and you're not humbling yourself in the will of God, and you're not willing to walk next to Him and say, I'd like to be up here, but right now, God, you're having me come back here. Or maybe, as we said before, you've got something that's just so heavy on your heart that you want to fall behind and say, God, I don't want you to see this. I don't want you to see the person I am. Well, He already does. You're not doing anything to help yourself. So pick up your pace and say, God, I'm going to come back, get in line with you, and I'm going to learn to walk in your way. And I assure you that if you're not ashamed to walk by God, then you'll see very soon that it is never as hard as it looks.